Philip, she continued, her voice softer but more urgent. There are things in this world you don't understand. Some people carried darkness with them. Sometimes that darkness can transfer onto others. I am telling you, not every woman you meet is what she appears to be. Philip laughed quietly, dismissing her words as fear. Mom, I think you have been watching too much horror movies. Philip is a banker in his early 30s working at a prominent financial institution. He had worked hard to earn his success and had become one of the youngest high-ranking employees at his firm. Tall and handsome, he was known not just for his work ethics but also for his night life. Philip was a charmer, and his single life suited him just fine. He preferred a life without commitment, enjoying the freedom of meeting new women and the excitement of one night stand. But there was one person who disapproved of his lifestyle: his mother. Philip's mother, Margaret, was a warm-hearted religious woman with a deep sense of right and wrong. She had tried countless times to talk to him about the danger of his choice. She wasn't simply worried about his safety. She feared that his actions were attracting negative energy into his life. But Philip always brushed her off, calling them old-fashioned superstition. As he prepared to go out one night, Margaret called him, her voice tense with worry. "Philip," she began, "I know you are a grown man and I can't control you, but please, you have to stop bringing strangers into your life. You don't know what kind of trouble you are inviting." He sighed, trying to hide his impatience. "Mom, I am fine. I know how to take care of myself. You don't have to worry." "Philip," she continued, her voice softer but more urgent, "there are things in this world you don't understand. Some people carried darkness with them. Sometimes that darkness can transfer onto others. I am telling you, not every woman you meet is what she appears to be." Philip laughed quietly, dismissing her words as fear. "Mom, I think you have been watching too much horror movies. I will be fine. I have seen things in my life, son. Things I can't explain," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Please be careful." Despite her warning, Philip was resolute. He promised to be careful, but his mind was already focused on his plan for the night. Tonight, he felt particularly confident. The nightclub was as lively as ever, buzzing with music and lights. Philip greeted a few friends, ordered a drink, and settled into his usual routine. He scanned the room, looking for someone new, someone interesting. And that's when he saw her. She was sitting alone at the bar, dressed in a black dress that shimmered under the club lights. Her skin was smooth, almost ghostly. Her face was strikingly beautiful, but her expression was blank, almost detached, as if she were lost in her own world. Philip was instantly captivated. He had never seen her in the club before, and something about her drew him in. He walked over, flashing his most charming smile. "Hi," he greeted, his voice smooth. "I don't think I have seen you here before. My name is Philip." The woman looked up, her gaze intense and unwaveringly. "Sandra," she replied softly, her voice barely audible over the music. There was something about her voice, something that made Philip's skin itch, but he pushed the feeling aside. They talked for a while. Her response was short. She revealed little about herself, and Philip found himself even more captivated. The mystery of her only added to her charm. Soon, he found himself inviting her back to his apartment. She accepted with a slight nod, and together they left the club, unaware that this was the night his life would change forever. When they arrived at his apartment, Philip offered her a drink, but she declined. She moved slowly through his living room, her eyes scanning his face with a strange intensity. It was as if she were memorizing every detail. "What do you do, Sandra?" he asked, trying to break the silence. She looked at him, a dizzy, almost eerie smile on her lips. "I am just passing through." The way she said it sent a chill down his spine, but he shook it off. Not wanting to spoil the mood, he approached her, reaching out to touch her arm, but her skin was ice cold, colder than anything he would have ever helped. Surprised, he pulled back, but she merely smiled. Her dark eyes shine with a strange light. "You are a brave one, aren't you?" she whispered, her voice soft and almost mock. Before he could reply, his vision began to blur. He felt dizzy, his thoughts crowded, and a strange sense of tiredness washed over him. He stumbled back, grabbing onto the edge of his couch to steady himself. "What's happening?" he said, his voice barely a whisper. Sandra's smile widened, revealing a row of teeth that seemed sharper than they should be. Her form began to shift, her features blowing and distorting, until she no longer looked like human. Shadows danced around her, twisting, her eyes glowing with an unnatural fire. "Didn't your mother warn you?" she hissed, her voice echoing in his mind. "Not every woman you meet is what she seems." Philip's heart raced as he tried to move, but his body felt paralyzed, frozen in place. He could only watch as her face transformed, becoming something dark, something sinister. "You enjoy taking women for a night and discarding them," she continued, her voice dripping with malice. "Tonight you pay for your arrogance." A strange force began to wrap around him, tightening its hold, pulling him into the darkness. He could feel his energy draining, his life slipping away, but he was powerless to stop it. In his last moments of consciousness, he heard her laughter, cold and mocking, echoing in his ears. The next morning, Philip woke up alone, his body weak and his mind crowded. The event of the previous night felt like a nightmare, but the lingering chill in his apartment took him. It had been all too real. He looked around, realizing that everything seems darker, most real, and as he tried to get up, a sharp pain shot through him, a reminder of the price he had paid. From that day on, Philip's life began to unravel. His job, his friendship, his health, everything started to fall apart. No matter what he did, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that something dark had taken hold on him. And in the back of his mind, he could hear her voice whispering promises of destroy. A reminder of the night he had ignored his mother's warning and paid the ultimate price. Philip's life took a drastic turn after that night. Every morning he woke up feeling as if something precious had been sucked out of him, leaving him empty. The once confident banker could barely recognize himself in the mirror. His skin had lost its color, his eyes sunken and shadowed. No amount of coffee or sleep could shake the sense of drain that clung to him. At work, his performance dropped, his focus shattered. Philip started making careless mistakes, costing his company significant amounts. His boss called him for a warning, but Philip could hardly respond, feeling as if his voice had been taken away, leaving him as a spectator in his own life. In just a few days, his reputation as a reliable professional had fallen apart. His mother noticed the change too. One Sunday, as he sat across from her at the dinner table, she studied him with worried eyes. "Philip, look at you," she murmured, reaching out to touch his face. "What happened to my son who was full of life?" Philip looked down, ashamed. He thought about telling her the truth, but didn't know where to begin. How could he explain the ghostly woman, the way she had drained him, how she seems to be waking him, even now? "Mom, I should have listened to you," he whispered, his voice weak and clack. "I met someone that night, and since then, I haven't felt the same." She was no ordinary woman. His mother's expression hardened. "I warned you, didn't I?" Her voice trembled, not with anger, but with fear. "There are forces in this world we don't understand. Philip, some people, they don't belong to our world." Desperate, Philip tried everything to get himself off the course. He went to healers, priests, anyone who might help, but each time he found himself growing weaker. His dreams were affected by Sandra's face, her mockery laughter echoing in the dark. One night he couldn't take it any longer. He stumbled out of bed, his body shaking, and fell to his knees, praying aloud. "Please," he begged, "I don't know who or what you are, but I am sorry. I will change. I will never bring another woman home again. Just leave me alone." But the room remained silent. The cold emptiness lingered. Days turned into weeks, and Philip's life continued to unravel. He lost his job after another error. His friends stopped calling, and soon he was left isolated in his darkened apartment. His health deteriorated to the point where even getting out of the bed became a struggle. One evening, while laying alone in the dark, Philip heard a weak knock on his door. He ignored it at first, thinking it was just his imagination, but the knock came again, this time louder. Reluctantly, he dragged himself out of bed and opened the door. To his surprise, his mother stood there, holding a small, well-worn Bible and a bottle of oil. "Mom," he stammered, feeling an unexpected wave of relief. "I came to pray with you, son," she said, stepping inside. Her presence brought a warmth to the room, a dizzy flicker of hope. Together, they knelt down in his living room, and his mother began to pray, her voice steady and powerful. She anointed his forehead with oil and read passage from the Bible, verses about strength, forgiveness, and protection. For the first time in weeks, Philip felt a strange sense of peace wash over him. As his mother's prayer filled the room, he sensed the cold darkness retreating bit by bit. That night, Philip had a dream. In the dream, he found himself back in the nightclub, reliving the moments he met Sandra. But this time, instead of approaching her, he watched from afar. He could see the darkness surrounding her, an invisible force that he had been blind to before. In that moment, he realized she had been waiting for him, a trap he had willingly walked into. He woke up with a start, his body drenched in sweat. The affecting presence seems to have lifted, but he knew he can't simply return to his old ways. He had been given a second chance, and he wasn't about to waste it anymore. Over the next few weeks, Philip worked very hard to rebuild his life. He had reached out to his former boss and apologized, explaining he had been dealing with personal issues. Although it took time, he managed to secure a lower position at a different branch, allowing him to start afresh. He avoided the nightlife that had once consumed him, focusing instead on rebuilding his relationship with his family and reconnecting with his faith. Every night, before going to bed, he would call his mother, sharing progress with her She would remind him of the importance of staying grounded and making wise choices. One day, while he was at work, he received a call from a charity organization looking for volunteers to mentor young people on financial literacy. Philip saw it as an opportunity to make a positive impact and gladly signed up. Helping others became his new purpose, filling the voice that had once driven him to seek temporary pleasure. Years passed. Philip looked back on that night as a turning point in his life. It had been a painful and terrifying experience, but it taught him lessons he would never forget. He learned that not everything that glitters is good, that some temptation carried hidden dangers, and that his mother's wisdom had been a shade he had foolishly ignored. His story became a cautionary story he shared with others, warning them of the dangers of reckless behavior and the importance of respecting boundaries. He encouraged them to think carefully about the choice they made, reminding them that life's greatest trap often comes disguised as pleasure. He eventually found love in genuine, caring partner who valued him for who he was. Together they built a life rooted in trust, kindness, and respect.